Chess lovers, Suren here, and in this video I would like to share with you a fantastic game played by Paul Keres against Vladas Mikenas. The game was played in 1968 in Riga at the 6th Soviet Team Cup. But before starting our game, let's quickly read what Paul Keres wrote about this encounter. Vladas Mikenas and I have known each other for about 40 years. He has been my second in a number of difficult tournament battles, and apart from chess, we have been friends for many years. We first had the pleasure of fighting against each other at the Warsaw Olympiad in 1935, and since then we have had many interesting battles. Our most recent game was at the USSR Team Championship in Riga. Since we are both in our comfortable years now, we generally prefer to avoid fierce fighting games in favor of quieter, solid play, where experience counts more than calculation. But in this game, complications unexpectedly arose, resulting in the kind of combinative game we might have played 30 years ago. Look what can happen when two old lions get mad at each other. At the time of this game, Paul Keres was 52 years 11 months old and Vladas Mikenas was 58 years 8 months old. And finally, now let's have a look what happened in the battle of two old lions. Paul Keres opened up with e4 and Vladas Mikenas responded with Alekhine defense, knight f6. Knight c3, d5, we have the Scandinavian variation, e takes d5, knight takes d5, and knight ge2, a very rare choice by Paul Keres. Usually white is either playing bishop c4 or knight f3 or knight takes d5, but in our game we have knight ge2. Here is how Keres comments his move. It is neither better nor worse than any other developing move and leaves black a wide choice of good plans. Bishop g4, although instead of playing bishop g4, it was better to play e5. This looks more active, but in our game we have bishop g4 and the bishop on g4 is actually somewhat misplaced. Here we have h3, knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop f5, and this time we have rook b1, queen d5, knight g3 and bishop c8. And after this move, black is like accepting that his opening strategy was faulty. By the way, instead of playing bishop c8, if we move like queen takes a2, then this can lead to a very interesting line where white can go for an exchange sacrifice and get a very dangerous attack. And then white can castle kingside, and of course white has a strong compensation for the sacrificed rook. Black king is in danger and white has a powerful bishop pair. Let's go back, but in our game after knight g3 we have bishop c8. Now comes c4, queen a5, bishop b2, c6, bishop c3, queen c7. This time we have bishop d3, although white could also play d4 and then bishop d3, but Paul Keres goes for an immediate development and he keeps the dark squared bishop's diagonal open. Here Mikenas responded with e5, we have castling kingside, f6, and now if we have a look at the position, while white had developed all his pieces and is ready to launch an attack, black has only moved his pawns and the queen. Of course, this is a terrible position for black, and now let's see what's going to happen next. As black king is stuck in the center of the board, of course, you have to open up the center, and there it goes, f4 is on the board. Now, e takes f4 can't be played because of this queen h5 check. If g6, then bishop takes g6 is coming. And if queen f7, then in this case, rook e1 check is winning. If bishop e7, then white can go for this beautiful rook sacrifice on e7 and then announce a check from b4 and it's over, black is losing. That's why after f4, Mikenas played bishop e6. Now comes f takes e5 and knight d7. Mikenas is developing his knight using the fact that the pawn on f6 can't be captured because it is pinned. But in here, Keres made a very strong decision and he captured on f6, thus sacrificing the knight. Queen takes g3 was played, f takes g7 and bishop c5 check. Keres writes, despite his difficult position, Mikenas, ever the excellent tactician, finds a surprising resource that almost gets him out of trouble. By the way, capturing on g7 is not a good idea because of this queen h5 check, and then rook f3 is coming, followed by bishop takes g7. That's why in our game we have bishop c5 check. Now comes king h1. Now the rook is hanging, rook g8 was played, and queen e1. White is offering the exchange of queens and at the same time is attacking the bishop on e6. Now if queen takes e1, then rook takes e1 is coming, and this pin is actually very nasty. If castling queenside, then rook takes e6. This pawn on h7 is also hanging, white is winning. That's why after queen e1 we have bishop d6. Black is creating a direct mating threat and at the same time is inviting white to capture on e6. In here, of course, capturing on g3 can also win easily. If bishop takes g3, then bishop takes h7 is coming. If castling queenside, then bishop takes g8. And yes, this is going to be winning. But here is what Keres comments his move. I was so fond of the following combination that I decided to find out whether I could still make an accurate calculation after 4 hours of play. That's why instead of going for the simple win, he went for complications and captured on e6. Here we have king d8 and Keres also captured on g8, after which we have king c7. And now look, although white managed to win the bishop and the rook, but right now black is both threatening checkmate in one and at the same time white queen is hanging on g8 and the question arises, what next? But it turns out that Keres had calculated everything. Pause the video and try to find his next move. Ready? In here he went for rook takes b7 check. Look at this, guys. With this move he is exposing black king and is making it vulnerable. Keres writes, this is the combination I wanted to try. The next moves are forced. King takes b7 was played with rook b1 check. Knight b6. Well, if king c7, then this time the bishop is joining the attack. And again, this is going to be winning. And then the queen appears on the board. That's why in our game after rook b1 check with knight b6. And as the knight is no longer covering black king, white queen is joining the attack with a check. Queen f7 check, bishop c7. Still there is this mating threat, but in here Keres simply moved his king on g1, preventing the mate. Rook d8 was played. Already Mikenas could resign, but still he made a few more moves. Here black knight stepped into a deadly pin. Rook takes d3, another desperate sacrifice. Queen h2 check, king f2. Queen g3 check, king e2, and in here Mikenas smilingly offered his hand. All defending resources are exhausted. For example, if queen takes g2, then white king can easily find a shelter on c2 and it's over, white is winning. If queen takes c5, then white can go for a queen promotion. That's why after king e2 we have a resignation. In the end, Paul Keres writes, thank you, Miki, for this excellent fight. Truly, this was a spectacular fight and I hope that you enjoyed this game greatly. In the end, as usual, would like to ask you to solve a chess puzzle. Please take a look at this position and try to find the mating line for white. I will wait for your answer in the comment section. Thanks for watching. For more games, consider subscribing to my channel. Also, press the bell button to get notified about new uploads. I will see you in my next video. Take care.